here, the hustle is constant and it's with your team, it's with the people who you work with to get you out. And there's kind of a constant conversation happening with the people that I work with to where am I going to go? What's next? Where are we looking at? What projects are on the horizon? So I think it gets a little bit easier when you have teammates and people in your corner fighting for you. But I think the hustle is kind of constant and so necessary in order to capitalize on opportunities in smaller markets or larger markets.
If you're a professional actor challenged by an increasingly fragmented industry, then this podcast is for you. The Hollywood Actor Podcast is an anthology made up of the stories of actors building their bodies of work by redefining themselves, reframing their goals, and reevaluating their opportunities. No matter where we are in our careers, we're always looking to be inspired and to share ourselves across our community. This podcast will offer that opportunity to guests and listeners alike as we all discover what it means to be a working, professional, successful actor. This is Jamie Young, and you're listening to the Hollywood Actor Podcast. My guest today is Candace Hammer. Candace is an actor based in Los Angeles, although she's hustled to work on shows filmed from Hawaii to the East Coast. Candace and I first met while performing on stage together as part of the Courage Theater Company's production of Slaughter City, which played at the Lankershim Arts Center in North Hollywood. Candace has amassed many film and TV credits, including This Is Us, House of Cards, and Criminal Minds. She can currently be heard on the ongoing radio drama King Falls AM, which is available on Apple Podcast and Stitcher. And you can follow her career at CandaceHammer.com, at Candace the Ham, 2 M's on Twitter, and at Candace the Hammer on Instagram. Now, please welcome Hollywood actor Candace Hammer. My dad was stationed at Ramstein Air Force Base.
Oh,
and I went to Kaiserslautern American High School, and I graduated. That's where... Yeah, my alma mater is.
I didn't know that. I love Kaiserslautern.
Yeah, and I volunteered
So
at Landstuhl
beautiful.
Hospital, where you were born.
Oh,
Where did you get your
wow.
training, though?
I went to NYU for undergrad. I went to Tisch, and then for grad, I went to the Gallatin School of Individualized Study, which is also a college at NYU. So I did them back to back. And I did that actually because of the military, because after 9/11, if you served for more than 9 years, they did a revamped GI Bill. And for people who are not in the military, the GI Bill was something that happened after Vietnam, where the government said they would pay for any GI's education. No matter what school they went to, no matter what they were studying, they would just pay for their education. So my mom served for 10 years after 9/11, and so she was able to pass that along to me. You could also bequeath it to your kid, which is a really cool program that they do to thank their veterans. So that is why I went to grad school right after undergrad.
And what did you study at for your undergrad? Was theater?
Yes, so it was at Tisch. There are different studios. So I studied the Meisner technique, and then I went to London and I studied at RADA, and I went to Paris and I studied French cinema in Paris for a while, and then I went to Stonestreet. Yeah. So I got a real wonderful overview of acting technique, and I think it's hard. I think about this frequently now. Making an 18-year-old go to conservatory is an interesting kind of plight, because I think there is a requisite of like life skills that you need. So I think it would be interesting to go back now. And I have a lot of friends who are going and doing MFAs, and I wonder if it's like vastly different. I wouldn't go and do an MFA right now, but I just think being older, you're gonna appreciate things in a different way.
I think so.
I went to the Stella Adler Conservatory, and we did interface with some of the NYU kids that were coming through.
Oh yeah. Oh
And some
yeah.
people that were in
That's
my conservatory were fresh out of high school, and some people were in their late 30s. Had different had were coming from different professions, whole different careers.
hmm
And it was a real mixed bag, and you did see that life experience that people were carrying with them from role to role, or um, yeah, it was just an interesting idea. I think that as well. Training throughout your whole life is something that changes because
hmm
you have more of your life and those different experiences that you're applying to different roles or different techniques. But getting a really solid foundation, I think, is helpful, and things that you can continue throughout your whole career to cast your mind back upon and maybe reveal in the years following and throughout projects. Finally, things click. I don't
Right.
think that that singular experience that we had when we were younger was only for us then.
No, absolutely. I agree with that. I think that's really wise because it does feel like you gain through the years a deeper appreciation for what you were given at a young age that you maybe didn't fully even understand. Because I think by just the sheer fact that you're a kid, you don't know yourself all that well. And the better you know yourself, the better acting you can do and are capable of. And I think the more technique then applies, um, the greater understanding you have of yourself.
Yeah, it seems like half of it is about observing the world around you, and half of it's about observing who you are, and how you operate within that world.
It's so personal.
So personal.
Yeah, like Glenn Close just won the Golden Globe the other week, and she said something like, "It's so interior." And I was like, that's like a perfect word for it. It's such an
Hmm.
interior thing to do. It happens so deep
That's
inside
why I
of
think
you.
actors struggle to connect in a strange way. Like, we learn how to communicate, but how to connect with our colleagues on a regular basis, how to talk about acting stuff. And the things that people talk about sometimes are more of the superficial ones, or more of the ideas that kind of cross over, as opposed to the very specific or idiosyncratic, more technical things, because they're just
hmm
hard to articulate. How much longer after grad school did you stay in New York?
I did, so grad school is 3 years, and oh, it was 2 years, and I took a year off in the middle to go to the Alabama Shakespeare Festival. So I left school for a year and did a did a whole year at this Shakespeare Festival in Montgomery, Alabama, which I could, because of the nature of Gallatin, in which I was designing my own thesis um, called The Crossover Actor, which was predicated on the idea of actors moving between stage and screen. So I I made my own little short film to be a part of my thesis, and then this year of professional theater was the other component to my thesis, and talking about technique in two very different realms, and how you could bolster technique by strengthening one thing behind the camera and then taking that to the stage,
Were you
was
approaching that
the
extremely
idea.
academically then, when you went to Alabama Shakes?
No, because it was deeply experiential. Yeah, I had to do 8 shows a week. I just
Okay,
had to like get up and do it. I think there
sure.
is something kind of academic
That's what I was
about.
wondering. 'Cause
But it was a year later that I had to write like 100-page like thesis and prove it with Stanislavski and the like. And I used actors' careers as sort of touchstones, and would say, well, she went to do this, and then she reappeared in this film, and there was something had shifted in her that was more pronounced or more dramatic, and in a wonderful way. So it was based on my experience, but it was also drawing from other actors' careers to prove this thesis, which basically you just have to argue that this could be true. But in the doing of those two things, I learned so much more than that argument, which, like, I don't know if I would make that argument today. It worked for what I needed it to do to get a graduate degree, but and it definitely provided me the opportunity to work on camera and on stage, which is what I wanted.
I see. So it's a lot of these actors that are consciously or maybe unconsciously using the stage to improve their technique that they then capture in a film.
Right. Yeah.
Okay.
Pretty much.
Wow. And do you see a lot of actors doing that?
I feel like we did for a while, but film has shifted so much to such a degree that I think some of those smaller films that you would see a really compelling performance that would be affected by like a stage actor, they're not quite as much there as they once were. We just don't have cinema in the same way that we did, but 10, 15 years ago, which is interesting. That's kind of a different conversation altogether, but I think it does. Do you feel that? Do you feel that that shift in the business?
I feel a lot of shifts in the business. I think it's pulling us in way too many directions, and I think it's incumbent upon us within this industry, and it's incumbent upon a lot of professionals within their industries to really establish what their virtues are, what they're trying to accomplish, their long-term goals, and really try to apply certain the mechanics on a regular basis to build towards that longer term goal. And it doesn't mean that you can't do things that are outside of that goal. It just means that you can't waste too much time and energy dissipating yourself and even your brand if you take it to marketing, to a marketing level. You can't dissipate. You have to refocus and redouble your efforts on the things that you believe in and the audience that you're part of. And again, that's a marketing thing, but also it does inform your technique and just your career. You know, why are you in the business? What are you trying to achieve?
Right. Yeah, I mean,
I love all those questions though, and they're very individual.
Right. What's your answer to them?
I'm still.
How does Jamie answer that?
What's my answer to that? Well, I love theater, and that's why I moved to LA, and I didn't think there was any theater here at all, and I was really happy that I was able. I know, talking to you guys with courage, really helped plug me in to the scene here, and understand that there's some really thoughtful actors, people that are trying to bring back old plays, trying to invent new ones, trying to still play with the medium of theater and what that theater going experience is in contemporary Los Angeles.
Which is such a diverse place.
It's different from New York at all. Yeah.
Oh, big time. Yeah.
It is.
Yeah.
But at least there's still a significant group of people that are trying to do that, and it's not like there's a true theater district, I wouldn't even say, in Los Angeles. I know there's a lot of little black boxes in North Hollywood and along Santa Monica Boulevard, but it seems like a lot of the real innovative theater, people that are really doing things, forging ahead, are these individual companies.
Absolutely. And that's why I think things like the LA Stage Alliance and the Ovations are really wonderful to create that community in such a geographically challenged theatrical landscape as LA, because it forces people to come together, and being a voter means you get to go out to see so many different shows. You see other voters at those shows, and it's stuff that you wouldn't necessarily go to because you get assigned to some shows. And there is a big theatrical community here because there are a lot of artists here that want to make art, And TV and film is a sliver of that. There's also a lot of TV and film writers who are also playwrights, and they want those plays produced. And so you see so much wonderful crossover. Like Becca Brunsetter is a head writer on This Is Us. She wrote The Cake. It premiered at EST, and then during the block party, or they just brought it back, actually. They just lifted it from EST, which is in Atwater Village, and they've just brought it to the Geffen. And it was such a wonderful experience of that cycle of how many artists are living in this area and want to create work, and it doesn't really matter the avenue with which the work comes out. It just needs to come out, and it finds its way. So it's really incredible that we have so many wonderful writers here, because we see that really benefits our stages. And CTG is just, it's a heavyweight, New York or LA, it's just a great stage, as well as the Geffen. You could argue some other theaters, but I think those two are pretty clearly wonderful.
Did you pursue theater after you got back to New York?
No, I had an agent for a lot of the time, and I was mostly pursuing TV and commercials when I was in New York. And similarly out here, I haven't pursued a lot of theater. I definitely went through a big period of TV work when I came to Los Angeles. So it became more about focusing on TV, and that was the sort of primary goal for a while. And even still, I still think that that's my primary desire, is to be able to show up on set day in, day out, and journeyman, on a show, really be a series regular and show up and take a story through many cycles. And I have a little taste of that right now. I'm working on a fiction podcast, which has a wonderful following. Listen to King Falls AM. And that it's my first little taste of that, where I get to be with this character for years and grow with her and let the story flourish and kind of coincide with how I'm growing and changing. And it's been really wonderful, that experience of crafting and feeling the writer starting to write more to my voice as well. So there's all these kind of pieces at play when a story continues for many seasons.
Wow. Yeah. That sounds like a great collective.
Oh, they're wonderful. Yes. Everyone go listen to that. I love it.
Did you book your first co-stars and guest stars while you were still in New York?
I was a sophomore at NYU, and my parents, because they were military, were stationed in Hawaii, and at the time Lost was shooting in Hawaii. So my first TV show was Lost, and it was because I showed up, and it was like the beginning of winter break. I think I flew in on a Thursday, and then on Friday I just walked into some random talent agency on the island, and I was like, hey, do you guys rep people? Just so kind of I look back on that and I'm like, wow, I just really just asked, I kind of, with a little bit naivete, just kind of asked. And they were like, yeah, sure. And they're like, you're cute. Okay. It was so simple, very Hawaiian too. They were just like, yeah, whatever. And then I was driving back home, and they called me, and they're like, hey, do you think you could play a 30-year-old on Lost? And I was like, sure. I'm 21 or 20. And that just happened to be my first TV credit. And actually that casting director who cast me on Lost recently reached out to me and was like, hey, I'm still doing Hawaii Five-0 and Magnum PI, and I'd love to bring you in for some stuff. So it just goes to show these relationships take time to cultivate, and that if you show up and do good work and are nice, people will remember, and you just have to kind of stick with it because it all comes back around,
Yeah.
So that was my very first TV show, and everyone was so nice on that show. I had my scene with like Evangeline Lilly, and she was really lovely, and professional and fun and kind. And I'm sure they all knew I was crazy nervous. And they were just so sweet, though. They kind of took care of me. It's like just by being so nervous, they
Yeah.
took care of me. That was my first TV show, but my first film was actually in high school. And that was another time where I felt I was crazy nervous. It was called Rocket Science. And I went in for the lead part like many times, like 5 or 6 times, against Anna Kendrick, who at the time I didn't know, and like, I was like a
Yeah.
Maryland kid. I didn't even like just happened to be in the location that they were shooting the film,
Sure.
and I just kept going up for it, and then was like devastated when I didn't get it, and I just thought, oh well, it's all over here. And just out of the blue, months had gone by, like 4 or 5 months since I had done all these auditions, and they just called me and they're like, hey, the director just like wrote a little part for you. He really liked your work and just wanted to.
Wow. Yeah.
Yeah. So that was my first
Must have
like,
made quite an impression.
well, I was in there so much. Like I really
Yeah.
like they made me audition
Still.
like a million times. And honest to God, I had no clue what I was doing. Like I was just I was really just relying on instinct. I was like, I think this is what it is,
Yeah.
And I look back on that and I'm like, that goes to show you, you have to have a point of view about what you're doing. That matters more than anything,
Yeah.
sometimes.
And when I think training and technique is more about finding that standard for you as you do progress through your career. So a person can just ooze a singular character in a project. They walk in, boom, that's that person. That's great. It
Right.
doesn't mean they're not acting, or it. What it means is they were extremely fortuitous, and they believed in themselves. They believed in who they were and their ability to be that person and to work as a professional on a film set. And that's all you really want from an actor. You just want those qualities,
Yeah.
of being able to believe in that person, believe that they are that person, and then believe that that actor can stick with us and not not derail the train kind of thing.
Yeah,
But
absolutely.
if you're in the career of acting, then you are trying to kind of understand why something worked and how to make it work again. If it's in the theater, you're trying to make it work again the next night. Wow, that scene really worked last night. I'd like to be able to
Right.
recreate that. And it's not about
Right.
the actual recreation, but it's how do I get back into that moment? How do I
Right.
feel those things? How do I plug back in? And I think that's why it's very important to get a foundation and to continue training, to understand those little things about yourself that can make you a little bit more of a polished professional throughout your career. But I think it's incredibly brave of you that you were able to just walk into some of these situations and be a local hire and have that opportunity and go with it and make the most of it. I mean, that's how you've established your career in Hollywood.
Yeah, in a lot of ways, that's true. I think like House of Cards was a local hire. So I've benefited from being able to kind of start in places that weren't necessarily like jam-packed to the brim. However, I have to say that I really hustled those jobs. And especially for House of Cards, I remember I was graduating. That was like right around the time I was graduating grad school. And so I had a lot going on. I had to like defend my thesis and finish the film and all this crazy stuff. And I remember seeing on like a SAG bulletin or something about that they were casting local hires. And I remember I got on a bus from New York and took like a 4 hour bus ride just to go hand my headshot into like a stack. They were having like an open call, and basically you would just go there and hand them your headshot and resume. And I did. I just took a bus down to do that one thing. And they did call me in, that was lucky. So at least I got through in that respect. And then, strangely enough, they auditioned me in New York, and that's when I met Julie Schubert, who won an Emmy for casting that show. and was so lovely. And she was just like, "Where have you been?" And I was like, "School." So it's funny because it does take some level of hustle, maybe even especially in smaller markets. Here, the hustle is constant and it's with your team, it's with the people who you work with to get you out. And there's kind of a constant conversation happening with the people that I work with to where am I going to go? What's next? Where are we looking at? What projects are on the horizon? So I think it gets a little bit easier when you have teammates and people in your corner fighting for you. But I think the hustle is kind of constant and so necessary in order to capitalize on opportunities in smaller markets or larger markets.
It seems like you've definitely been putting in the hard work and creating momentum for yourself. And were any of those projects that you worked on, the Lost or House of Cards, were any of those particularly momentous for your career or precipitated your move to Los Angeles?
No, actually, the move to Los Angeles was more because of my husband, who was my fiance at the time. He's into robots. He builds robots.
Sure.
So there isn't a lot of robotics work
To replace
in.
all actors.
Well, actually, yeah, he works at Disney now.
Oh.
So there, yeah, but that's for the parks. So he's building
Oh,
a robot for the
we're
parks.
safe
Yeah,
for now.
for now. Yeah.
Be
Yeah,
nice to him.
that's a long time coming.
Okay.
Yeah, rest assured, you got 20 years before that happens. We're nowhere near that. That's one of the things about having a roboticist in the family is like when people are like
Uh-huh.
scaring about technology, I'm like, is that true? And he's like, no, we're nowhere near that. I'm like, oh, thank God.
Right.
Oh, that's good to know. So anyways, it was just because we could both work in California. So it was a matter of we could have stayed in New York, but in New York City proper, which is where I wanted to be and had lived for 6 years, there wasn't a lot of big tech companies at the time. So we came out here because there are a lot more tech companies in Southern California. And so I think I just want to say, too, that it's really important to have a full life, and it obviously can't be all career all the time. So, like, make choices that benefit your, family and your soul as well, I think sometimes it can feel like guilty to do things that are just solely for you. But they're critical, really, at the end of the day, to be kind to yourself and, set up a life that you want to live in all facets.
Yeah. And that's hard to do wherever you're basing your career. And I think it is particularly difficult in Los Angeles to stay plugged in, um, to keep in contact with your fellow actors, but at the same time be grounded in whatever that takes, whatever that means to you. Um,
Mm-hmm.
that you're still pursuing hobbies or a side hustle or a parallel career. What do you do on a weekly basis that helps you kind of do that? Stay focused, stay grounded, stay healthy.
I actually teach a fitness class. I teach a spin yoga class. It's 30 minutes spin, 30 minutes yoga. And yes, there is like the obvious that you have to kind of stay in shape for this job. But it's also just really kind of fun and freeing. And I listen to a lot of music to get ready for the class and build the playlist. And there's a wonderful community there of people who love to get together and have fun. It's sort of like a big dance party for the first 30 minutes. And then
Mm.
it's very rejuvenating, relaxing yoga for the last 30 minutes. And there's a real spirit of camaraderie through all of that. And that may just be the studio or the people that frequent it, but that helps. I also work for an animal rescue, and I help them save the puppies. So charitable things, taking care of yourself physically is very important. And then also setting aside a good chunk of time to do the work and dive in as deeply as I want to on any given day to be in the work. And I'm currently prepping a project that's going to shoot in March. And, you know, you have to kind of be very diligent with yourself when, you know, you're handed a big script and they're like, all right, go do it. And you're like, okay, I'm going to have to take this chunk by chunk and make sure I digest this thoroughly and know what I'm doing and saying in every moment, and do the research that's required to bring it to life.
Yeah, and I think they can depend on you to do that. You know, you've showed that time and again for all your journeys and projects that you're not afraid of work, you know what to do, and you're extremely passionate about that. And that's the exact Hollywood actor we want to be promoting on this podcast. And having you talk today about all of your different experiences and how they've made you into such a driven, passionate, and I can vouch for your talent as an actress. It really speaks volumes to what people can achieve if they just keep trying to figure things out.
Yeah, I think that's so sweet of you. I'm taking that in. I appreciate that. I hear you, and I love it. Thank you.
It's true. And obviously, in the show notes, we're going to be talking about your the podcast that you were saying that you're in right now, and maybe even that project that you're prepping for. Maybe that'll be in distribution by the time this episode airs.
Yeah, the other the thing that I'm working on is it's a working title, so I don't really have a good descriptor for you, other than the company that's producing it is called Amaze VR, and it's a virtual reality TV show, choose your own adventure, and I'm like a detective hunting a serial killer, so it's like really fun. But
wow.
So that should be coming out, I believe, in like May. So it'll be a while, but King Falls AM is definitely listenable now. It's a commitment. It's probably like 78 episodes in at this point. I've been doing it for like 3 years.
I had no idea.
I came in the second year. Yeah. And I had my own sort of like spin-off show. So the premise is like it's an AM radio show, and then I had my own sort of other show competing with them. So yeah, and then our destinies intertwined. So
yeah. Anyways,
it's super fun. We have a crazy fan base. Shout out to the King Falls fans. They're wonderful. And yeah, that's easy to access. I just did an episode of SWAT. If you guys watch the show SWAT, you can watch that. Did a McDonald's commercial recently. It's all on my website. So that's stuff that they can watch.
Yeah. And you have a discount code to your spin class? I'm just kidding.
If you come to my spin class, yeah. If you show up, yes, you get a discount.
Well, thanks so much, Candace, for being on the podcast. I really appreciate you being willing to speak to us today.
It was a pleasure.